answers to the worksheet. Number one, the diameter, the distance rather, should be 5, and the midpoint should be -1, -1/2. For number two, the distance should be radical 5. The midpoint should be radical 3/2 and radical 2/2. For number three, distance 6 radical 2, midpoint 0, 0. For number four, the distance should be 2 radical c squared plus d squared. Guys, I see a lot of people do this. They say, well, once they get this radical 4d squared plus radical 4c squared, they think they can just take the square root of this and the square root of that. But you can't do that. That would be like if we had this problem. What's 9 plus 16? And what's the square root of 25? So the answer to this is 5. Could I just take the square root of 9 and the square root of 16 and get the right answer? No. So if it's addition, we cannot take the square root, only if it's multiplication. See, look if it had been multiplication, like 4 times 9. What's 4 times 9? What's the square root? Is it okay to take the square root of 4 and the square root of 9? Am I going to get the right answer? So if it's multiplication, it's okay to take the square root, but not if it's addition. So this is the addition of two values, so I cannot do that. But I could factor a 4 out. And now it's 4 times this, so we could take the square root of the 4. And that's how we got 2 radical c squared plus d squared for the distance. And the center is going to be at CD. Any other questions on number 4? Okay, number 5, find the other endpoint. Okay, I did this probably a lot differently than you may have done this. I did not use a formula. I plotted the 2 points. And I knew whatever I did to this point to get to that one, I would have to do the same thing to this to get to the other endpoint. So to go from here to my midpoint, I had to go over 10 and up 10. So then I thought, okay, to go from here to my other endpoint, I have to go over 10 and up 10. And that's how I got my answer pretty quickly. I'm sure most of you used a formula, right? Did you use a formula? Audrey, tell me your formula used. On number 5, just to find the other endpoint. Okay, just to find the x value.
3 plus x over 2 is -7.
Right. Okay, and then we cross multiply. 3 plus x is -14, so x had to be -17. And then to find the y coordinate, Audrey?
-7 plus x over 3.
It was called that y. Equals what?
3.
Cross multiply. -7 plus y has to equal 6. So therefore y had to equal 13. So that's how we can get the point -17, 13. Lots of different ways of thinking of this. All right, write the equation of the circle with center and radius. So x plus 2 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals 5. 7, the center's at -1, -3. The radius is 2. Number 8, the center's -5, 1. The radius is 3. Looks like that. Number 9, I had to complete the square. The center's at 4, -1. The radius was 2. Number 10, I had to complete the square. The center was -3, -2. The radius was 1. Looks like that. Number 11, this one's a little bit tricky, but tangent to the y-axis, that just means it barely touches this y-axis. So therefore, I would know the distance from the center over to there, and that would tell me the radius. So the distance from -3 over to that would be 3, so the radius was 9. So that ends up being this. This one, to find the x and y intercepts, I plugged in 0 for x, solved for y to get my y-intercepts of 0 to plus 4 radical 5 and 0 to minus 4 radical 5. To find my x-intercepts, I plugged in 0 for y, and then I solved that, and I got 1 plus 2 radical 19 comma 0 and 1 minus 2 radical 19 comma 0. The way I got the 2 radical 19 is because 76 is 4 times 19. Questions so far? Okay, this last one was a challenge problem, okay? I'm going to just kind of walk you through it because this was tough. Did anybody figure it out? Anybody take maybe McKinley? What do you get for your answer?
This dude in my X-ray is helping me because he's taking detailed that right now.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, I know he explained this to me, and I got x minus 5 squared plus y minus 6 squared equals -5.
I'm not sure that's the right answer, but at least you guys tried.
Yeah.
Because the way I know it's not is because if the area is 25 pi, then the radius has to be 5. So we know this has to be a 25, not a radical 5. Okay? All right, so here's how we should do it, guys. See, here's the situation. We're told that the circle passes through 2, 2, and 2, 10. But that does not mean that this is the endpoints of the diameter. If it had said the endpoints of the diameter, this would be really easy, just like our warm-up. But it's not. See, it could go like this. And see how those are not the endpoints of the diameter? It could also go like this, though. It could go both ways. So there are actually 2 possible circles we could get, okay? So watch what I'm doing. First, I'm using this point of 2, 2. I know the equation has to be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals 25. So now I'm going to plug in 2 for x because I want to find my center. So plugging in 2 for x and 2 for y, I get this. So now I'm going to, I'm going to use the point 210 because they tell me that point. So if I plug in 210, I'm going to get 2 minus h squared plus, now I'm going to plug in 10 for y, 10 minus k squared would also have to equal 25. So see, these are my 2 equations. This has to be true and this has to be true. Well, if both of these equal 25, what's going to have to be true of this part? It has to be what? Equal to each other. So now I can say 2 minus h squared plus 2 minus k squared must equal 2 minus h squared plus 10 minus k squared. Now, what's true of 2 minus h squared and 2 minus h squared? They're exactly the same, right? So I could really subtract those from both sides. So now I'm going to be left with 2 minus k squared equals 10 minus k squared. To solve this, I'm going to have to multiply it out. Can somebody tell me what that would be if I multiplied it out? 4 minus plus k squared. Okay, what about this one? Good job. All right, so this is what I've got. And so now what could I do to both sides? Subtract what? Subtract k squared. So now I'm left with this, so I'm getting closer. So 4 minus 4k must equal 100 minus 20k. So I can solve this now. I'm going to go ahead and add 4k. Actually, I'm going to add 20k. Negative 4 plus 20 is 16k. 100 minus 4 is 96. 96 divided by 16 is just going to be 6. K has to be 6. So this has to be 6 units up right here.